What's the next thing you remember?
Waking up in the hospital with a detective asking me what I did.
44.7. This random number represents the average number of people that are murdered each day in the United States of America. And that's not all. 1 in every 133 people has a chance of getting murdered while living in US. Now, getting murdered is a horrific thing, but you know what's even more horrifying? That the person that killed you was a loved one, your doting mother, loving father, or your siblings. Being a crime buff, I have read about plenty of crimes, but sometimes there are crimes that I come across which are so horrible that they shook you to your core. One such crime is the Case of Ashley Wallace. For most of us, the word mother or mom is synonymous with love, affection, and care. But what if someone's mother is a hardcore murderer, and not just any common murderer, a proper, horrific crime committing serial killer? So without any further ado, let's get into gory details of the story that'll truly rattle your mind. Now the question is, who is this Ashley Wallace, and what's her connection to this whole discussion that we just started? Ashley Wallace, a girl born in 1988 New York to parents Stacey Castor and Michael Wallace. The little girl's childhood and teenage years were nothing short of tragedies that kept falling on herself and her family. But who knew that these tragedies that had stained her life weren't just occurring naturally? Yep, you heard me right. To understand the case, let us take a look at timeline of all these events affecting Ashley's life. First marriage. On 17th of April 1990, Stacey Castor got married to her first husband, Michael Wallace. According to their friends and family, both of them were deeply in love and very happily married. They had 2 daughters, Ashley and Bree. But according to sources and Stacey herself, the marriage soon turned bad because of Michael's drug and alcohol issues. Michael's death. On January 11th, 2000, Michael was found unconscious in his home, and when taken to the hospital, he was pronounced dead. Few months ago, in 1999, he got sick and consulted his doctor that he may have an inner ear disorder. But here comes the weird part. Normally, when death of a person this young who doesn't have any apparent disease occurs, it usually raises some questions, but the doctor in this case just ruled it out as a potential heart attack without any sort of autopsy, and this explanation was just good enough for his wife Stacey. Now this is fishy if you ask my opinion. What made this sudden death even more fishy and skeptical was the fact that Stacey received $55,000 from his insurance policy. Well, that's surely something. Second marriage. Stacey met David Castor in 2001 through her boss. Soon they started dating, and by August 16, 2003, Stacey married David and became Stacey Castor. Just like Stacey, this was David's second marriage too, and he had a son from his first marriage named David Jr. According to Castor, her daughters weren't too happy about the marriage, and David being difficult with the kids didn't help it too.
David was miserable. My mom acted miserable. The only time they were happy is when they weren't around me and my sister.
Death of the second husband. On August 22, 2005, 911 received a call from Stacey Castor in which she said that her husband hadn't showed up for work on Monday.
Police communications, can I help you?
My name is Stacey Castor, and my husband has locked himself in our bedroom for the last day. I'm just getting a little concerned because I haven't talked to him since 5 o'clock in the morning on Sunday when he locked me out of the bedroom.
According to her, she had last spoken to David on Sunday at 5 a.m. when he locked her out of the room. According to Sergeant Michael Norton of the Onondaga County Sheriff's Office, Stacey described that her husband was visibly upset and disturbed. He took a bottle of alcohol and went inside the room. He wasn't coming out and the door was locked from the inside. When police reached the house, they knocked down the door to find David Castor dead in his bed of an apparent suicide. Inside the room, there were 2 glasses on the nightstand. One of the glasses had a liquid that was later identified as an antifreeze, the same antifreeze whose bottle they had found underneath the bed. Now in front of the world, Stacey had portrayed herself as someone who was constantly being struck by tragedies. I mean, first, her husband died all of a sudden because of a heart attack, then his second husband killed himself a few years later. This really was a story that could get you a ton of sympathy from people all around you, but to some of those people, all of this looked a bit fishy. Smell of foul play. Since the beginning of the investigation of this apparent suicide, there were many things that were just not sitting right with the investigating officers. First of all, the people who knew David, including his ex-wife Janice Poissant-Farmer, strongly rejected the idea that he would ever kill himself. Similarly, Detective Dominic Spinelli also remained skeptical about this whole case and started an investigation. The second thing that made this death seem not suicidal was the fact that in his will, David left all of his belongings to Stacy and her 2 daughters, and not a single dime to his own son. This does ring a bell or two.
I don't even believe my name was mentioned in it. My first feelings on that were my father really did not like me. I thought he was just pissed at me, like, wanted nothing to do with me and never wanted anything to do with me again.
The investigation. Police started by putting on surveillance cameras at Castor's home and at the graveyard where both of her husbands were buried. They also wiretapped her phone in hopes of getting any evidence that'll strengthen their case. On September 7, 2007, Castor was brought in for questioning, and according to Spinelli, while answering his questions, Stacy further raised their suspicions. In his own words, I asked Stacy, "Do you remember which glass it was that you poured the cranberry juice in?" And she looked at it and said, "Well, when I poured the anti-free, And then she stopped and said, I mean, the cranberry juice.
And I said, "Stacy, there's 2 glasses on here. Can you tell me which glass it was that you recall bringing into the room when you gave him cranberry juice?" And she looked at it and said, "Well, when I poured the antifree, and then she stopped and said, I mean the cranberry juice."
When Spinelli kept on focusing on this slip of tongue, Stacy accused him of framing her and just walked out of the interview. Well, a big red flag, in my opinion. A third murder? Now, this is the point of story where Ashley Wallace, the 18-year-old daughter of Stacy, comes in. Ashley was in college when some investigators visited her and told her that her father actually died because of antifreeze poisoning and not by heart attack as they had been told earlier. Now remember that Ashley was still a child, so obviously she was terrified after learning these details, and the first thing she did was to call her mother and tell her about this meeting. Thanks to police wiretaps, officers recorded that Stacy was asking her about all the things that investigators had told her. She then invited her for a drink to help calm her down. The next day, September 13th, 2007, she woke up hungover, went to college, and when she came back, her mother again offered her a drink this time to celebrate her birthday a little early. Now, that's some excuse to get your daughter drunk. According to Officer Norton, she remembered that the drink did not taste very good, and that her mom got her a straw and told her to put the straw to the back of her throat and to just drink it. She said she did what her mother told her, and then she was tired after she drank it and went and laid down. The next day, Bree, the younger daughter, found her sister unconscious and hardly breathing, so she immediately told her mother, who made a call to 911.
I need an ambulance.
What's the problem?
My daughter, I believe, has taken some pills.
Is she conscious?
Yes, she's normal.
Okay.
I'm leaning over her. Ashley, she's having trouble, I think. It sounds like there's something in her throat. Ashley. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Oh my God, this is not happening.
According to Spinelli, Stacy relayed to the 911 dispatcher that Ashley had consumed alcohol and quite a few doses of medications. Bree also found a 750 words typed suicide note with Ashley's sign, in which she had confessed about murdering her father and her stepfather. Doctors found a bunch of drugs in her body and said that she was just 15 minutes away from her death. When Ashley woke up, she was informed about the letter, and just as Spinelli had suspected, she was surprised and taken aback at this accusation. She strongly denied attempting suicide, writing any suicide note, or killing anyone. So now all of it was pretty obvious Ashley's mother, the woman whom she HD looked up to all her life, had tried to kill her just like she killed both of her husbands, and then tried to frame her for the murders too. Arrest and charges. Stacy Castor was finally arrested at the hospital where her daughter was admitted and charged with the murder David Castor and attempted murder of her own daughter. On December 20th, 2007, she was indicted on 1 count of second-degree murder, 1 count of second-degree attempted murder, and 1 count of forging a will. Stacy's lawyer tried his best to defend her by framing Ashley for all the murders, but the evidences against Stacy were very strong. Conviction. February 5th, 2009, approximately a month after the trial had started, Stacey Castor was convicted of all the 3 charges. She was sentenced to over 51 years in prison. To the last day, she was adamant on the fact that she was innocent and was being framed by the police for the crime she hadn't committed, the Black Widow. The case, obviously due to its nature, got much media attention, and the media quickly gave Stacey the title of Black Widow. Killing 2 of her husbands and almost killing her daughter made her a serial killer who would have done anything to just hide the truth about herself. Where are they now? On July 11, 2016, Stacey was found unconscious in her jail cell. She was pronounced dead because of a sudden heart attack, and authorities soon ruled out any foul play in the death. She didn't meet any of her daughters after the trail till her death. On the other hand, Ashley Wallace now lives in New York and is engaged to be married soon. According to Ashley, as hard as it is to get up every day and put a smile on my face, I know that I have to. Because if I don't, then Stacey won. There's no doubt that this case was solved because some investigating officers just weren't ready to believe Stacey's side of story. But just for a second, imagine if officers like Spinelli hadn't been skeptical about all of this. Imagine if they had believed that Ashley, in fact, was trying to kill herself. Would Stacey had stopped at this? I think not. But the thing that's most horrific about this case is the fact that you may never know if there's an actual serial killer sitting right next to you in your own family, and they might one day try and make you one of their victims. I'll see you soon with more videos. Until then, adios.